The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of Green Acres and our guests. These general gardening tips and suggestions may work for you, as well as those from alternative sources. When using any garden products or tools, read and follow all label directions. And learn how to make your yard summer strong at bewatersmart.info.
The Green Acres Garden Podcast is the podcast dedicated to helping gardeners hone their growing skills while we celebrate our love of plants. So whether you're new to growing or a seasoned gardener, you're sure to learn something new. Join the fun as we have conversations with world-class growers, passionate green thumbs, and professional garden experts from Green Acres Nursery and Supply. Listen every week. We'll answer questions you didn't know you had. And away we grow. It's time to cultivate our garden joy and knowledge. Welcome back to the show. This is the Green Acres Garden Podcast. I am the chlorophyll kid, Kevin Jordan, back in studio. And to my side is Austin Blank.
Hey, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. How are you doing, Kevin? It's my favorite time of the week.
I'm doing great. We had an amazing guest this week, a true legend of our region, Ray Tretheway. We had a chat. Yep. In the City of Trees to talk about trees. It was phenomenal. I really had a blast with him. I'm really looking forward to sharing that with everybody. I wanted to say welcome to the neighborwood to all of our listeners. And also remind them, right now is one of the most amazing times to plant trees.
Why is that?
Oh, dude, warm soil, cool air. You have a nice long season to get established before the summer heat comes on. So between now and the peak of summer, I'm telling you, is optimal for planting trees. And by the end of today's episode, I'm telling you, if you're not inspired to want to go plant a tree either in your own yard or somewhere in your community, check for your pulse, because you might be dead. Because Ray is so warm, he's so inspiring. Like I said, he's been doing it for over 40 years, and a million plus trees later. We'll get into that. Pretty
trees.
Impressive resume with Ray, and just a great time. But before we get into that, can I share something with you, Austin?
Of course. What's going on?
So back at home, baby's sleeping through the night. Pretty cool, starting to crawl, and they're eating food. And I wanted to do a big shout out to a previous guest we had on, our friend over there at the Twin Lakes Food Bank. Remember what she sent us off with when we left? Michelle Queck.
Yeah.
She sent us off with some of their fresh, organic butternut squash.
Oh, right. Yes.
It was the first thing I fed my kids.
Oh, no way.
Roasted it in the oven, got it all nice and hot, pulled it out, let it cool down.
Thing?
It was the first actual food.
Other
than their mother's milk, that they ever ate.
Grown up. Look at that.
Cooked it, ground it up into a little whip. They loved it, dude. So they're big into it, eating carrots. Did the same thing with peas, but I wanted to give a big shout out to Michelle for that food. And it created a lot. And actually, I ended up eating a little bit of it too. And I was like, why don't I eat butternut squash more? It's so good. It's like sweet like candy.
Yeah, no, it is really good. I can't believe you did that. That is so cool.
Dude, the baby, we actually, I'll have to show you. We filmed them eating it, their expression when he ate that butternut squash. I'll have to send Michelle a picture. Dude, blew their minds. Just instant smiles, and then they kind of wiggled and bring it more. So it's so funny when you get kids eating veggies early on. Speaking of veggies, our cool crops are in at the school garden right now, thanks to all the hard work of my students and a couple colleagues out there really busting their hump.
Way to go.
They're in. Cool crops are in for the cool season.
What's all in now?
Got a lot of brassicas.
Yep.
We've got purple broccoli we planted this year. We've got several types of cabbage, some kale. We've got carrots and of course, cauliflower. We've got some bok choy in there, mustard greens, of course, shallots and garlic and some onions.
Dang, man.
We went crazy on it. Yeah, we went pretty wild this season, and so I cannot wait to see what my students can produce. I'm so proud of them. But we're going to get into it today.
Yes.
So we're going to leave the gardens, and we're going to look up towards the sky, to the canopy, as it were, and we're going to discuss all about trees, specifically the trees that we all share in our community. You plant a tree in your garden, I plant one at my house, maybe someone else. It's like we all share that canopy. Those trees kind of grow together, and it creates our urban forest.
Yeah.
And that's where that's where I started with Ray. I'm like, man, what's going on? Tell me about this urban forest. Why is it important? And how do we cultivate it?
Yeah. So I don't know if everyone knows Ray Tretheway, but to me, he is a Sacramento legend.
Icon, for sure.
I grew up in South Natomas, and this guy was part of my life, like growing up. Like I knew him, and he was actually a neighbor. He lived close by to me, and I believe that his wife Judy even published a monthly magazine that was for the neighborhood, and I would see his face all the time out and about, and I just remember that name. And now it was so cool to meet him and learn more about him and what he did. And he helped found the Sacramento Tree Foundation and helped us become the city of trees.
And 1 million plus planted trees
That's
later.
a lot of trees.
They're doing pretty good. And there's so many different reasons for a tree. You know, trees are so amazing, and there's so many benefits. Ray was kind enough to kind of share with me some of those, from his perspective, some of those benefits. And some of those benefits might be not the ones you normally talk about. Usually I'll be like, hey, I got this amazing invention. You know, it filters water. It stops soil erosion. It does, it creates oxygen, all the normal ones. But Ray he understood that, but he kind of elaborated in ways and built on that, the concept of what trees can truly bring, the wealth, the benefit,
right,
the health.
I think the biggest one to him and to me, like I agree with this, like it seems like he really cares about community. And that's what I love about this guy.
Yeah.
He wants to build, I like this term too, neighborwoods.
Yeah.
Like every neighborhood should be its own little wooded area of different, and reflect that community, those people there, and that the people are responsible for these trees. It's not something like we can write off, the city has to worry about that. No, we need to worry about it.
Absolutely.
And we need to build out these areas that are underprivileged, that don't have a big canopy. You know, we take it for granted we're the city of trees, but really there's all these areas that need more canopy coverage, and
Certainly.
they need the benefits of all these trees.
Planting new trees, replenishing ones that have passed away. It's an ongoing process. I love the work they've done, and I feel like he's passing the baton to the next generation, and that is our listeners. That's anyone listening right now. That's you and me, Austin.
Yeah.
Anybody else? It's our job now.
So in regards to replenishing, so we have a lot of trees here.
We want more.
But is that because some have died, or some have, like, what do we need to replenish trees?
Well, Ray shared with us, it's like the canopy kind of goes through all these different cycles, and you have different waves, people planting. And I've been lucky enough that I've seen, a lot of trees have been huge my whole life, but some of these trees come and go. They might reach the end of their natural life cycle, or you may have environmental factors that are very stressful, years of drought, extreme weather, that then takes advantage of a weakened root system or a tree that's maybe sickly. I lost oaks in my front yard that had this fungal infection that took years to kill them. And then boom, they were dead. And oh no, heartbreaking. But they get cut down, removed. And guess what? You don't just sit around on your thumbs. You find a nice tree that's suitable and you replant. And so whether you're planting out into a new grove, creating a new grove, or just maintaining and replenishing ones that already exist. I mean, there's so much to be done.
So the fight goes on.
The fight continues, and I feel like we're at the edge of something really great.
Yeah.
Where we can kind of cultivate a paradise around ourselves, one tree at a time, and it can be done one person at a time, and we are the stewards of that. So I loved it. Ray is such a warm, thoughtful, inspiring person with just a wealth of knowledge. So
totally agree.
Just loved this episode.
So let's go ahead and jump into our interview with Ray. We had an amazing time meeting with him. Local Sacramento legend himself, Mr. Ray Tretheway. Let's go ahead and jump into that interview now. Here we go.
One of my friends, my colleagues, said that planting a tree is a healing process. It's acupuncture for the earth. Isn't that great?
Planting a tree is acupuncture for the earth. I love that.
Isn't that, yeah.
I feel like it's therapy for me personally. Yeah. And have you ever just planted a tree and it's like instantly just felt better? I noticed, I tell my students, I'm like, any day I plant a tree or more, it's like, that's a good day. I feel good about that day.
Well, I find myself, I plant a tree, I walk away, I look back. I walk a little further away, I look back.
Still there? Are you still there?
Further, now that you're there, I'm proud.
Yeah.
I'm proud that I made a difference. Well, that tree's going to make a difference much more than I made a difference, but I started something. Hi, I'm Ray Trethaway. I helped start the Sacramento Tree Foundation. and worked there for over 40 years. I also was a city council member that helped move Sacramento in the direction of more trees, planting more trees.
So let's get started. Ray, can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, who you are, what your history is with trees, with Sacramento?
Oh, I'd love to, Kevin. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to be here at Green Acres and share this wonderful story. We are the city of trees. So the legacy goes way back before my legacy started. And it goes back to, you'd be surprised, the city council started in 1849. Within 5 years, they were voting money for 2 reasons for trees. The city council was. One was the levees were breaking, and they wanted to put trees in the levees to shore them up. 2, there was a lot of rain, and there was a lot of standing water around. And the standing water had waterborne diseases.
Oh, yeah.
And so they planted trees in those ponds in the standing water area to soak up. So it's for public health and public safety. The beginning of trees in Sacramento started. Then fast forward about 30 years, it was C.K. McClatchy who owned the Sacramento Bee. He traveled extensively with his family for a year to 2 years, all through Europe. And he sent these postcards back, and they'd be printed in the Bee. Great cities have great trees, meaning plant the largest tree possible, expand the canopy as much as possible.
They're seeing all these mature urban forests already?
Yeah, all throughout the older European cities and such. And so we've had this inheritance of the importance and the value of trees instilled in the city of Sacramento, which, as you may know, there's many studies. We're the 3rd largest urban forest in the world per capita. We have more street trees per capita than anybody else in the world. And what this tells us is that we've inherited this legacy that we're responsible to carry on. We need to plant more trees. Trees are valuable. Trees are important. And the most interesting thing I think about an urban forest, and my definition of urban forest is, it's the canopy above and the ecology of your neighborhood. And what's important, I believe, is that we understand that 90% of the urban forest is the responsibility of renters and landowners, people that live in homes and in apartments and condos. And they control and manage and make decisions on 90% of the trees that we're so proud of.
Isn't that incredible? You would think it's just government. It's the city trees.
Yeah, you think it's park and street trees. Now they're the most dominant trees, and obviously oftentimes the most largest trees because of the space, the land space. So they're most visible. That's why we want local governments not to stop the tree agenda, but to progress it.
Well, let's get into it. What are like the distinct benefits of trees? Have you ever gone traveling and been to a city that doesn't have a lot of trees? I've done that. You're like, where are all the trees? So, and from your perspective, what are the most defining characteristics? Why should we even plant trees?
Yeah. I would have to start with beauty. They're beautiful, and they're colorful, and they're oftentimes a reminder of where we're at. Like you just said, when you go down a tree-lined street, you remember that it's just arching over, especially on our July and August days. You remember it.
Oh yeah, every little bit of shade you can run to when you're walking.
And then you go out maybe a mile away or maybe 4 miles away to another street which has very few trees whatsoever. And you wonder why. You really wonder why. And I believe there's a clear answer here, and that is the amount of canopy in a neighborhood is because of the values and aspirations of the people that live there. And I think too often those values in low-income neighborhoods and aspirations are suppressed due to landlords that just want to rent, don't want a great landscape.
They want brick and mortar, cement, hitting cement.
Yeah. Canopy cover actually improves people's health if you have enough of it. You have to have enough.
Do we have enough canopy cover here in Sacramento? Or do we need more?
In the city, in county of Sacramento, in the medium to high income neighborhoods, the answer is probably, yeah, we have probably 30 to 35 to 40%. But in those other neighborhoods in North Sacramento, South Sacramento, and other low income disadvantaged neighborhoods, it's 5 to 12%. And those are neighborhoods we need to go into and inspire the people to make decisions that will have long-lasting effects, not only of their neighborhood, but of the longevity of their life. The most amazing statistic I've read in a long time, about 10 years ago, a researcher went to the city of Oakland and looked at the death certificates, and then looked at the zip codes of death certificates and the canopy cover. And you live in a neighborhood with all things considered the same, you'll live 3 to 7 years longer in a well-canopied street. There's more stability in those neighborhoods. The people live in the houses longer, which means what? There's more sociability, social cohesion.
Well, let's get the folks caught up on you.
Yeah.
You have a storied career. For over 30 years, you were the executive director of the Sacramento Tree Foundation.
Right.
Were you there at the beginning? How did it all start? And what is the Sacramento Tree Foundation? But ultimately, how did it all begin? And what's your origin story there?
It's a fascinating origin story, unlike any other in America, for the locally based, community-based, nonprofit tree foundation. Most all of them started because somebody fought a war to save a tree, or were told they couldn't plant a tree somewhere. It was like, what do you mean? And then, well, why aren't we having a stronger voice? How come we can't influence our local governments, our cities, or our counties and stuff? But no, Sacramento is very different. Sacramento, because of Prop 13 froze the ability for local governments to raise more money. So 3 years had passed. Most all the cities and counties of California had gone through their surplus budgets. And Sacramento saw the spring budget coming up for the following year of 82-83. Phil Eisenberg, the mayor of Sacramento, and Isla Collin, the chair of the County Board of Supervisors of Sacramento, wrote out 300 letters out to people saying, please come to this meeting after lunch, because we're not going to buy you lunch, at the community center, which is a free venue. And 150 people showed up. And the letter said, we want to talk to you about starting the Sacramento Tree Foundation. This came from political leaders with vision that cared about Sacramento and the quality of life in Sacramento. And 150 people of the 300 showed up. I was one of them. And they said, okay, we are, this spring, we're getting ready to slash budgets. And those without a voice are going to be slashed the first, then the deepest, and the harshest. Would you please start the Sacramento Tree Foundation? So we have a voice for the trees, and we can continue to be the city of trees. Fascinating. So what else in Sacramento happens? They had a committee, right? And somehow I got on the committee of 11 that would do the bylaws, fundraising, strategic plan for the first 5 years. And it was miraculous start. When we started on Arbor Day, Sunday, March 7th, 1982, we had the wherewithal to go to the Secretary of State condominium in South Thomas, pick her up. And I and the first president of the Tree Foundation, Jay Hagedorn, drove her to where the Sheraton is now. Is that 11th and J, 13th and J, something like that? And that was the Secretary of State's office. Sunday she opens the door and gives our corporation a stamp on California Arbor Day.
Made you official?
Made us official. And we had a 5-year plan to plant a tree a day. A tree a day.
That's doable.
Well, we were brand new. We had a board of directors of 40 people. We had a technical advisory committee, thank goodness, of 25 who's who, landscape architects, arborists, people just love trees, actually were on it too. And so we went out planting trees, and we were the darling of the newspaper. Everything we did was golden. No, green, was green.
Yeah.
We were our pictures and photographs and stories. And the first 8 years we planted, actually after the first year, we planted 1,000 trees a year. It was so popular. to plant trees. And then 3 board members came to us and said, let's plant 1 million trees for the new millennium from 2000 to 2010. And so after we crunched the numbers and did this and that, and half the board left, half the board stayed, and more board members came on. And this is an exciting thing to do. So we, with our wherewithal of flying by the seat of our pants, we got up in front of had a press conference, said we're going to plant 1 million trees in Sacramento in the next 10 years. Sacramento Tree Foundation's going to plant 10% of those trees. We're going to go from 1,000 trees a year to 10,000. And the rest, and the builders and homeowners are going to plant the other 90,000 trees a year, and we're going to start to count them. We kept track all the way through. And we were 1 year off. In 2011, we celebrated the millionth tree at Cesar Chavez Park, planted a tree there, the millionth tree.
I've probably seen it.
Yeah,
I've been there.
Right by. It's right in front of the Citizen Hotel.
I'll give it a shot.
There
I'll give
it
it a
is.
look.
You know, there's no plaque
Beautiful
there.
park. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's there.
That's
and
absolutely incredible.
It is.
What's next for the Tree Foundation?
I think there's one. I think what's next is the most amazing thing to me, and that is we're just learning. I thought we knew about trees. I thought we knew the economic value of trees, the social value of trees, the environmental value of trees, the public health value of trees. We're just starting to understand what trees do for us. We're just understanding the value and the benefit and the service of trees, not only in terms of the return on investment, but I like the return on community. It bonds people together, it bonds neighborhoods together. And I like the idea that if we could have people understand they live in an urban forest, I think that's one of the primary messages we have to have. You know, and
are we part of the urban forest?
We are the urban forest because we are so proud of our trees in Sacramento, but it's probably the largest hand-planted urban forest in the world. So it gives people that want to be part of this and a part of changing their neighborhood, changing their lives, changing their health, changing their prosperity. Trees are an amazing asset. It's the only asset that they can go out and purchase. It's going to grow over time in its value and not go lower. Like my car, I buy my car. It's not worth as much the day I bring it home. You plant a tree, it's worth so much more in 20 years.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Nothing like a nice
What
mature
other
healthy
asset
tree.
is that you can spend your hard-earned money on?
Yeah. It's hard to beat
and
a
change
tree.
your life and your world around you. So I believe that one way to look at this, because we think of forest, you go, well, that's somebody else's the state forest, federal forest, there's
Let someone
private
else
forest,
think
but they're
about
up in
it,
the
take care of
mountains,
it.
and you know, they have professionals do it. They have, it's a whole business model. But no, ours is an ethical model, a value model. I strongly believe that the future of urban forestry is in the mind, the hearts, and the hand of every citizen of Sacramento. We are lucky, we're blessed that Sacramento is known worldwide as a city of trees, but we need to take that legacy and not be proud of it, but to move it forward. We need to plant many, many more trees, especially in areas that have fewer trees than neighborhoods with a lot of trees. The city of Sacramento and the city of West Sacramento did a combined climate readiness plan. Very comprehensive. It had, I don't know how many recommendations, dozens and dozens and dozens. But one of the principal ones was to increase the canopy in all neighborhoods so everybody benefits in both cities by 2035 to 35% canopy cover. 500,000 trees need to be planted. Now that's not a call for action. You know, I don't know what is.
Let's go.
Let's go. And you know what? You have to do more today, the early years planting trees, than in year 2034. You should be pretty much done by planting those trees.
Let's do it.
We inherited the city of trees, and now it's our responsibility to carry that legacy on.
Here we go. 1000% agree.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ray Trethaway. I would have gone longer with you, Ray, if they would have let us.
Is this a Groucho Marx thing, or if I open it, the duck's going to fall down? Only you know what I'm talking about. Great.
All right, we are back. Big thank you to Mr. Trethaway. Thank you so much for speaking with us. That interview was tremendous.
Oh gosh, Austin.
So, Kevin, coming out of that, I'm feeling inspired to plant trees. And I know it's very important that we think about the right tree for the right place.
Absolutely, you're
and
learning.
That we also not just plant trees, but we grow and we take care of them for their life.
Absolutely.
Right? We don't just plant and abandon. So do you have any recommendations for our listeners here in this area? What kind of trees should we be thinking about?
With our delightful Zone 9B Mediterranean climate, I mean,
There's options,
there's
right?
tons of options. Like you said, right tree, right place. And even Ray, kind of mentioned when I was talking with him behind the scenes, it's like, man, if you really want to maximize, for that space. So if you have a space that can allow for a large tree, grow a large tree. If you're limited and you only have a smaller space, then grow one that can fit in that space. So right plant, right place, absolutely. For me, some of the larger trees that do really well around here, and actually you can go on the Sacramento Tree Foundation's website and find the Shady 80, and they will give you a list of trees that they work with. Now, not all of these trees you might find right away at your local nursery, but it can give you a starting point of some that work really well. But we'll give you a few right now. So some of the ones that are like large and evergreen that can do well for us, a lot of the pine trees are killer here. A lot of our magnolias, the Magnolia grandiflora, beautiful tree, large canopy, evergreen, beautiful flowers. The California bay laurel, love. You ever had bay leaves?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So you can grow a massive tree.
Bay
It's the
laurel.
biggest herb in your garden. The bay laurel.
How big are we talking? Is this like 30 feet tall?
Yeah, 30, maybe 30 to 50. They can.
That's huge.
But that's at like full maturity. I
Okay.
planted one at the school garden, and it's been 15 to 20 feet for like 10 years.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a little slower growing, but
Okay.
but it's looking good. Nice thick evergreen canopy. And if you want something really massive that looks pretty cool with age, and we've brought this up before in the past, the Deodar cedar.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool tree, especially at maturity. But if those aren't too big for you,
Yeah.
you can go down smaller. So some of the medium-sized trees that I'm really into, or even on the smaller side, there's a ton of oak trees that do really well here. And once they get established, I mean, they are off and running and really easy to take care of. And they provide so much habitat and food and forage and shelter for many species. I think the list exceeds over 200 species of organisms that our oak trees support. So oak trees are killer for that. Another one that I think is pretty cool that's on their list, that's a deciduous large tree, ginkgos.
Oh, yeah.
We've
love
talked about it
ginkgo.
before. Beautiful. They are a living fossil in a way. They are so cool. And of course, the sycamores, the maples, those are your standard ones. Now, if you want to shrink down to something small, I love the redbuds. And that's on their list. They have the eastern and the western.
Oh, I didn't know that those were small. You recommend those a
They're
lot.
like small, medium. They can get 15, maybe 30 feet tall over time. They have a beautiful little bloom that kind of occurs that I've even eaten the flowers on. So from the oaks to the redbuds, you can kind of have some fun with it.
Sure.
And find plants that are climate adapted. And even if they're not native, a lot of the trees on their list, that Shady 80, they're trees that are Mediterranean and from Mediterranean climates all over the world that are adapted to hot, dry summers with kind of cool, wet winters.
There we go.
And he even mentioned once they, after 3-5 years of good care, these trees can then get established, and they really will slowly kind of take better care of themselves, or at least will take less care on our behalf, which I love that. And so it's kind of cool.
Like a kid
approach.
growing up.
You know it. You're off and running. All right, now you can wipe your own buns. So those are cool. Those are just a few. And one that was on their list that we've discussed in the past, but I'm going to give it a shout out again. The Palo Verde.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, beautiful. The Desert Museum.
The green bark on that.
It's so drought tolerant. It's climate adapted. The heat, the dry soils, poor soils. They're beautiful, interesting looking. It has photosynthetic stems. The stems and branches are green and produce energy for the tree. Beautiful, dainty little leaves. I think they're semi-evergreen.
Okay.
But just a cool one overall. So if you have a tricky location that's really hot and sunny, the Palo Verde is just one that
Oh, right. It can
chef's
take
kiss.
all the sun and
Bring
heat.
it on.
Yeah.
For sure. So whatever the situation, I would suggest go on there, do your research, look for a tree, and find one that works for you. Planting trees, Austin, planting and growing trees isn't going to solve all of our problems. Just most of them.
There we go.
So let's get after it.
Let's do it. I love that. So, wow. To our listeners, I hope you resonate with this message and we can all build a better future for our communities, and that can all be done with trees. It's just as simple as that. Being smart with them, though, and taking care of them and doing it in the right way.
Cultivating your neighborwood.
Yeah, there we go. Let's do it. So with that, I want to thank Ray again for joining us on this episode. And Kevin, go ahead and take us out.
Well, thank you so much, Ray Tretheway, not just for our interview, but for 4 decades of hard work and service to the Sacramento region. Thank you so much. And I hope we've all inspired a little bit the next generation of tree planters.
Woo!
Woo. Yeah, thank you so much, Ray. All right. Thanks to our listeners for showing up. And you know what? I want to give a big, huge, special shout out to someone special who's been working really hard to make this podcast a huge success. Me. I'm just kidding. Austin Blank and our producer, Greg Gayton, have been putting so much work into making these episodes a success, from the edits to organizing and all that. So thank you so much to both of you. I love working with you guys, and hopefully we can plant some trees together.
Let's do it.
Until next week, garden friends, please get out in that garden, get your fingers dirty, consider planting a tree. Until next time, happy gardening to you all, and please never stop growing. Trees!
Woo! Dude, I'm feeling so good off of this.
Let's do it. Oh, no worries.
Yeah, thanks for the shout out.